I'm a political scientist and I'm currently working in a project called Representing Women, which studies women's conditions, experiences, and agency in the Swedish film industry. And I've been studying the Swedish film industry and Swedish film policy for some time. And as a political scientist, I'm especially interested in political processes and how they shape the gendered conditions in the industry. Using feminist theory as my starting point, I can consider gender balance to be important, but not enough to change current gender structures. In fact, according to feminist research of other fields, introducing gender balance may actually lead to the neglect of other injustices, for instance, in economic distribution. So gender balance is important, but it's also important to understand the context in which it is inserted and how the efforts to improve gender balance affects other features of gender inequality. And since my work is about the Swedish case, I need to give you some context. So the next picture is here. So Sweden, like most European countries, provides state support for filmmaking. And in Sweden, this is primarily done by providing production support. On the national level, this is handled by the Swedish Film Institute. And we also have regional support, which is important for film production in different parts of the country. So about the gender equality policy then, the government first tasked the Swedish Film Institute to promote gender equality in the year 2000. And in 2006, the quota, or the gender balance goal, was introduced. There is a huge discussion about the word quota, and I will not go into it here. So the effort to achieve gender equality has become more salient over the years. And this means that as a political scientist, I have the unique opportunity to investigate the outcome of well-established efforts to promote gender equality and the effects these policies have had. And while Swedish gender equality in the film area is narrated as a huge success story and has gained a lot of attention internationally, it is actually much criticized in Sweden. And I want to give you some examples from my research of the public debate in order to show you that gender equality doesn't come without a fight. So we have a few critics of gender equality. First is a woman film commissioner in 2004 when the quota was high on the agenda. She says that there is no democracy in art. That is why it's not possible to have gender quotas. Quotas are a Stalinist way of reasoning. And then in 2010, a male director is quoted in a daily newspaper. Women should stop sitting in a group complaining. Just make it work, you know. And then another male director in 2012. I'm a man. I stand up when I pee. When your peeing is considered part of your art, it's fucking sad. Okay, so this was just a glimpse of the Swedish debate. And turning to policy then, there are basically three goals of gender equality policies in the film industry. The first one is gender balance behind the camera. The second one is to improve women's working conditions. And the third is to have a greater variety of experiences represented on screen. So if we take a closer look at the outcome, we can see that the implemented policies target primarily the goal of gender balance, like in the quota, for instance. And in the three key positions, scriptwriter, director, and producer. And as you can see here in the before and after diagram that I have, the effect of the quota goal is actually quite good. So the source of these figures are from the Swedish Film Institute, and the Swedish Film Institute provide excellent statistics on gender balance and the correlation between gender and budget size, gender and screenings, etc., etc. However, there is a lack of information about the gender balance and the conditions for other professions than the three key professions. For below-the-line film workers, cinematographers, etc., we don't have this kind of information, and we don't really know what the gender balance looks like in much of the industry, and that is something that we will try to look into. But if we look at the statistics that we do have, we can see that when it comes to women's conditions, we have a gender gap. Where still in 2013 to 2017, women had only between 66 and 86% of the budget of films made by male directors. And we also have differences in distribution, where distribution of films made by female directors are more handled by companies working with so-called quality film. And for instance, the non-for-profit distributor Folkets Bio is very overrepresented in distributing films with female directors. And we can also see that there is a problem when it comes to networking and a gender separation, one can say, of the industry. So 46 of male producers have never worked with a woman on a key position since 2006, which I think is quite an astonishing number. Adding to this, we know that from the Me Too movement, for instance, we know that women in the industry encounter sexual harassments and assault. And combining all of this, we know that women's condition still needs to be improved. So turning to what is screened, the Swedish Film Institute statistics show that films with a male protagonist have on average a 33% higher budget than films with a female protagonist. In our project, where we have interviewed women film workers, we've also found that adding to these lower budgets, women filmmakers encounter obstacles in portraying women the way they want. And here are some voices from our interviews. I need to have this one. So, the first quote is from a director whose film was pitched to the EU Media Fund, and she told us in the interview about the responses from the decision-making group. And they said that the film wasn't visually exploiting the fact that she was a prostitute. And they also said that the female voiceover was provocative and bossy, and they felt sorry for the poor man who was controlled by this voice. Another director says that they just couldn't take that the protagonist had had 4 abortions. It was as if that was completely unthinkable. So apparently, women on screen still needs to be subjected to male characters, likable, and to behave according to the rules of appropriateness. Even if women, according to the Swedish Film Institute statistics, are more prone to make films about women, it is still difficult to screen women in new ways, thus screening new experiences. So, taken together, if what I have said presents the conditions for women and film production in what is supposedly the most gender equal film country in the world, one wonders how change is possible at all. However, from our research, we can see that the efforts undertaken actually also leads to what we call pockets of resistance. These are instances where women actually do their thing and make the films that they actually want to, where they, through their coping strategies during production, challenge the fundament of the culture developed in production, for instance, by questioning the necessity of extremely long working hours, or the macho culture, speaking about it and pointing it out individually. One woman told us she made a list of appropriate behavior and distributed it to the crew. or in concerted actions, for instance, like the Me Too movement. We believe that such instances harbor a seed for actual change. And in addition, I want to finish this by saying that women do make amazing films. So the top 3 ranking films in the Swedish Film Institute's quality ranking since 2007 have female directors. Thank you.